Morning, it's Friday the 8th of November. It's really warm for the time of year. It must be about probably about 7 or 8 degrees now. And it's just got light. It's about 8 in the morning. As I said, we got here yesterday morning. It's a new lake to us. I think, by all accounts, it's about 240 acres. It's almost like a big round bowl. Hardly know anything about the lake other than that it's supposed to hold some nice commons. Some people have fished here recently and they've had some reasonable results. Nothing massive, but we're in November, so we've got a better chance of a bigger carp. And it's still warm. We've not had one frost yet this year. It's perfect carp conditions. There are long nights. We're tempted to get into the north end of the lake because the weather was showing southerly winds pumping up that end, but all tracks, a couple of them were private. We went in. We actually ended up getting the van stuck for half an hour in the mud, thinking that we were going to have to go and get a tractor to pull us out. And thank God I found a different route out of where we were, and we managed to get the car out, only to find out that we'd actually been locked in. So we then had to get the spanners out, unscrew the gate posts, and then pull the entire gate out just to get out of the place. And we've ended up coming in on the south end of the lake. There are two other teams of carp anglers here. Couple over here that I just zoomed in on, and then there's a couple over that side. Coincidentally, they actually started off where we were planning, but they moved off when they saw us arrive, so I can only assume that they hadn't caught anything. Therefore, the only other option, on the basis that they've got their lines right out, was the most convenient part. And I'm not just saying that, it is the most convenient part. We're on a point which we've basically got one bay going down to the far southwestern arm of the lake, and we've got a small bay going down to the far southeastern arm, and then we've got a big expanse of open water in front of us. So we're able to fan rods all the way around, and the rods are a long way apart. There's very little chance of the lines catching. It's not congested at all with 8 rods out. So it's ideal, really. It's just a case of whether or not the carp come into the area. We've been out with the sounder. It's pretty uniform out there. It shelves away fairly steeply down to about 10 to 11 metres, and then it goes out. There's a few humps and bumps, and we've tried to find the more kind of undulating bottom to put our baits on. There's a bit of weed out there, so we've got a couple of rods just off the edge of the weed. I've got this far left-hand rod that's just out of shot there, in about 8 metres of water, just off the edge of a weed bed at the bottom of the shelf, which is probably my most confident rod. And then we've got rods at ranges from probably 150 to 220 yards, maybe a little bit further out, fanned all the way around. Each rod has either a double or a single 18 or 24 mil bait on it, all snowman style. All the baits have been wrapped. We don't know if there are poissons in here, but the water temperature is still 16 degrees, so that tells me that if they are in here, they'll still be very active. So we're on long nights here. We don't want to be placing baits regularly, so we've deposited probably a couple of kilos of bait over each rod. Spread it all out, 18 and 24 mil Odyssey XXX baits, which have got a hardener in them, which gives them just a little bit more time in the water if the shats are active. As I said, it's 8 in the morning, not had a touch all night. I just had a couple of pike anglers come round to my left there. I'm just about alright on that rod. It's a little bit more disturbance than I would like, but we have got our rods fanned out all over the place, so you can't really complain. Right, all for now. Tim's just finding a spot for his last bait. Right, here we are, first morning, about 10:30.
John has just had a ripper, most central rod, fished in the deepest water, probably in about 12 metres. It's just ripped off about 5 minutes ago, so we're probably about halfway through the fight. Feel any good, John?
It does. I'm a little bit concerned about this weed in front.
Have you felt it going anything yet?
It just feels like quite a heavy weight.
Good, hopefully it's a big fish. Be nice to start off with a 40. Do you need to come the other side of that line?
Just picking up your line now, Tim.
Or is it under it or over it? I think you're right.
No, I'm definitely under.
Right, I'll just move this rod and we'll resume the fight in a sec. Right, here we are. How far out is it, John?
Well, because the water's so deep, it's difficult to tell. I'm tempted to ask you to bring the old, to wade out to the marginal shell.
Yeah, that's okay.
It certainly doesn't feel like a small fish, that's for sure.
Daytime bite as well, mate. There was definitely some shows over that bait last night, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Right, I'm going to try and get out and net it. Hitting the bottom.
Well, that big, is it?
First bit of colour.
Common, I saw it.
Right, keep. Yeah, it is a common.
See why they fight so hard. See that swimming around?
Yeah.
What's it, about 35?
Difficult to tell. It's in the 30 bracket. So on a triple X with a little white pop up on top. Here it comes. Not a bad fish, John. Just keep it steady. Oh no, you've seen the net.
Yeah, like I'm going to be able to keep that steady.
He's tiring. Just spooking off the net. Got some power. Bit unkempt, mate, but he's in. First blood to Mr. T. This is the result.
Okay, first fish, winner, off the mark. Round of applause there. 20. It was about 29 and a half, so not even a 30. Makes you wonder how hard those big ones are going to fight. Oh my goodness, this probably took the best part of what, 15 minutes to land.
Yeah. Strong fight,
real strong,
but healthy fish. Pucker mouth,
perfect condition. Doesn't look like it's been caught before, which is even better. And we've got one of the baited spots working, so as I said, it gives us license to start topping up the baits. There we go.
Come on.
Just
was it 10 kilos?
15?
non.
12 kilos?
14.
14
kilos.
Elle est belle. Donc, deux, two photo.
That's okay. Merci. All right, Tim.
Yeah, clean fish. Well done, mate.
Nice.
Let's get it back. Put it back. Got an audience. Bonjour.
Bonjour. Good morning.
Don't want to get my arse wet.
Come on then, mate. Let's see him sail off. Oh.
Right, well it's about 4:30 on the Friday night. We've just got paid a visit by the guard de pêche. He's checked our tickets. Fortunately we had tickets, which was a good start. Spoke good English, was a nice guy. Of course he then told us that under no circumstances can you night fish. and if you do get caught any time after dark, he's going to take all our tackle and we're going to have to pay to get it back. And unfortunately, whilst there are 6 other anglers on the lake, we're in the easy access one right next to the car park, and it's very easy for him just to walk down here after dark and pull us, which basically screws a night up, because we can't get anywhere tonight. There's such long nights, we want to be fishing the nights, and there's not really anywhere on the lake. We could maybe go over there, but there's not really anywhere else on the lake. It's so stitched up. It's a bank holiday weekend in France, a 4-day bank holiday, and with the weather being so mild, every bloody carp angler in France is going to be out. So it's never easy, so we're going to have to move, unfortunately. Just when we thought we had a decent area and we were covering a nice area of water, unfortunately we're going to have to move tomorrow. So I'm trying to convince Tim to to snide our rods in tonight and leave them out. He's not so sure, but I'm sure we can put them up the margin here, well out of the way, and just leave the bank sticks in the water here. And he's gonna come down and say thank you for not night fishing. But anyway, that's where we are now. Bit of a gutter coming up for the second night. I've gone and got the markers in. We're going to leave the rods on the spots tonight. No doubt one of them will go. Hopefully we'll have something to show you in the morning, but with the risk of the guard coming, we certainly can't be leaving them out blatant like this, and we're going to have to move on tomorrow. Leave it there for now. Right, it's Saturday morning, so yesterday was our second night. These rods weren't here, they were stashed right down to the right hand side, just in the trees right down there, and these 3 rods were strategically positioned just behind these small willow bushes, and from back here you really couldn't see them. To just throw the guard off a little bit more, we put all our other rods all stacked up right in the middle of the area to make it look like we reeled all our rods in. We fished with 3 each last night. We didn't pre-bait because we thought we were going to be leaving first thing this morning, so all the rods were left out exactly as they were the night before. They've been out 46 hours, probably 48 hours now, Tim.
Yeah.
And I got one of about it was 31 pound, that had been out 2 nights. So 2 fish in 2 nights. It's not ideal, got to be honest, and there's a hell of a lot of anglers here now. I've just chucked a couple of rods out there while we figure out what we're going to do. Anyway, we'll leave it there. I've just chucked these 2 rods out about 50 yards to where some bubbles are, just while we decide what we're going to do. And the line's pretty tight. It's almost pointing straight down. It's the best part of 30-35 foot just down there. And you cast out, feel it, and it's like 1, 2, 3, you get all the way up to 30. And then it hits the bottom. It's ridiculous. As I say, I've just chucked them out. Don't think I've got a cat's heading chance, but just while we figure out what we're going to do.
Yeah, there is a boat in there. He's got rods going out to the bay, but he's obviously tucked his bivvy away because I can't see it. Right, there's 3 down that side.
That guy's gone over there.
Someone on the point.
There's 2 guys there, and there's 1 guy down in that bay, so it's well and truly stitched. So much for a bank holiday weekend in France.
In November.
Fucking November, yeah.
I don't feel like November. What you got, John?
31 pounder.
About 5 o'clock this morning.
Yeah, about, I think you said 5:30 at the
Yeah, left-hand rod, which was positioned sort of more over this side. One sonar. Tried to play it from the bank. It did get caught round something, so.
We're fishing at about, what was that? About 180, 200?
Yeah, something like that. But glorious day today. Might not be so good for the fishing, but look nice with the sun on it.
Real big tail on it.
You said you had trouble getting its head up.
Oh my goodness me, it's like hard. I always seem to say that on this. I always seem to say, oh, they fight so hard. But yeah, lovely condition.
None of them have got bellies on them, have they? Really? But maybe it's a bit too early. Maybe it's another month or so.
Then we'll be at Christmas. Does that look alright?
Yeah. Looks quite small, but yeah, lovely clean fish. Any other hook marks in its mouth?
No, not really. Okay, let's just get it. Do you want to just take a very quick photo, Tim?
Yeah, sure.
Right, let's pack up. Right, 2 hours later and we're done. Unbelievable effort considering we're just fishing no more than probably no more than 200 yards down at the bottom of the park here. It just takes so long to do anything. We've managed to get everything in reasonably smoothly. The reason we're leaving, we've had 2 fish in 2 nights, both around £30. It's not bad going, and I think if we stay, it might start picking up a bit, but there are 10 anglers here. The river that's just behind this lake is absolutely bombing through, and all the local river fishermen have had to come onto the lake just because it's so chocolate brown and 10 foot higher than normal, going through like an absolute bomb. So we're moving on. It's Saturday, so it's not the best day to be moving on onto anywhere else because it's likely to be busy, particularly on a bank holiday weekend. But we've got a plan. We've got 3 or 4 options that we're going to have a look at on the way, and whichever one's probably quietest and we fancy, we'll move on. So right, let's get the sat nav on and get cracking. Right, destination number 3.
Oh, crossing.
Our plan was to cross this river because the lake we plan to fish is just behind these trees here. That is what you call a torrent. I don't know how well it's picking it up, but it's bombing through. To take all our tackle across there is just risking disaster like you wouldn't believe. Beautiful place though. Any sort of issue with the motor and you are going miles downriver. There's no telling whether there's any weir or anything like that further down.
It's not worth the risk.
It's not worth the risk. We're gonna have to. The reason we came over this side was we were hoping that we could bypass all the kind of well-known tracks, because you're not allowed to fish on the lake at all anymore. So we were hoping that we would be able to park up somewhere along here and get over there without anyone spotting us. But it might have to be a nighttime job, Tim. Yeah, right. construction work going on to the right here. Fortunately it's a Saturday, so no one's working. Magnificent, beautiful place. Right, we're halfway around the lake. We've spotted two carp anglers blatantly fishing. We're thinking it's because it's a weekend and all the construction work that's going on around the lake. You can see some tunnels that they've built in up there. I haven't got the tripod with me, so I'm afraid it's not going to be too steady. Well, I don't know. Beautiful place. Can you see there's a bait boat going across at the moment? Just in the distance there, don't know if you can see it. Well, we'll have to see. We'll have to see whether it's viable. Right, on about our 10th different stop-off point for the night. It's Saturday night, bearing in mind. A lot of people around, pretty much everywhere. We've found a lake. We've come up into the lower Alps, and suffice to say that it's 10 degrees colder would be an understatement. You really can tell the difference in temperature. It's getting dark. We've basically been on the road all day. We found this lake. Trevor from CC Moore and a couple of other people we know. I think Nick's been here before. They've fished this lake. What beautiful scenery, beautiful setting. We've basically got, we don't know how big they go in here, but we've got about 15-20 acres of water in front of us. Possibly, I guess about that, maybe a little bit more. It does go quite, it's difficult to tell how far back it goes here, but essentially Tim's fishing over to the left hand side into this bay, which is quite, goes back quite a long way there. He's got one on the far margin there, and then from the point round we've just done alternate rods, and I've got little cut through there that just goes up the side. As I said, we know that Trevor's had a 43 out of here and a few others. I think I've seen a video from the other side of here, but it's actually effectively a different lake. So anyway, our plan is to go back to that beautiful lake that we went to come Tuesday once the bank holiday weekend's over. We were warned by the anglers there that it would be too risky during the weekend because you're not allowed to fish down there. So we've stopped in on here. As I said, it's absolutely beautiful, but it's not, I would say it's probably not exactly what we're after. When we arrived here, it was a bit of a, not really sure about it, but it's getting late, we haven't got that much time. So we'll see what the night brings. As I said, we've spread bait effectively all the way across from the point there, which looks like a small birch tree, or beech tree, just across to the far margin. It's deep, it's clear, there's some weed near the edge, but I think it's pretty clear out there, don't you, Tim?
Yeah, that felt a little bit softer, but I took the foam nugget off and I didn't pull any weed out, I think, so.
Well, I'm sure Tim will get off the mark tonight, and we'll see a smile on his face. As we can see, tackle strewn everywhere. It's that time where basically you just want to get your rod sorted out, so it's quicker when you've got the space. It's quicker to get it all out. It's not going to be like this for long, mine. We're going to tidy it up shortly. Anyway, right, time to crack on. Two out. Yeah. I think there's a very, very good chance it's going to be the first frost of the year down here tonight. Although, to be fair, I've not been down here, so I don't know whether it's been frosty or not. But judging by the forecast on a daily basis, it certainly hasn't frosted yet. But there's that crisp feel in the air. I'm still in shorts, but the temperature's plummeting. You can feel it. I wouldn't be at all surprised if there's a little bit of white on the ground in the morning. be a cold one. You can see the breath. But anyway, a few more bits to sort out, get the long johns on, and hopefully we'll have a couple of fish for you in the morning. So much for the first frost of the year. No sooner had I gone to bed, but it's probably the first monsoon of the year. It's been raining since 9 PM last night or thereabouts. It's about, I think it's probably about 9 AM now, so 12 hours of torrential rain. I really hadn't planned for that with this profile. It leaks a little bit. I was sure it was going to be a clear night. I would have got the tent out otherwise. Anyway, no action to report of. Tim had a poisson chat about an hour ago, which has led us to question how much bait there is left out there. But we can't really do anything when it's like this, so we're just going to have to sit it out and see what happens. Okay, it's Tim's birthday today. He's 34 years old. It's Sunday the 10th of November, and he's blanking like a good one. He had a poisson shower this morning. We've moved on to this lake. It's just torrential rain. We've got a plan for Tuesday, where we visited earlier on. We're going to go back when it's very quiet, when there's very little people around. But until then, we stopped in on this lake, and it just looks dead as a dodo. Put all the rods out last night, all on very firm spots in anywhere between 5 and 8 metres of water. Gave it a good sprinkling of bait and just one poisson chat to show for it. The rain has just been non-stop. There was no frost. The heavy cloud, low pressure came in, and it's just been raining non-stop. It's pretty good carp conditions really, but nothing to show whatsoever. If it lets up a little bit, I'm going to go for a little look around the front lake here, just to see if there's anything showing, and I'm tempted on just driving up the road to a couple of other lakes just to have a look to see if they're busy, because if I'd seen a carp, it might be worth warranting staying. I don't know, maybe we'll give it another night. I'll have to see how it goes. Okay, quick. Right, well, 2 minutes after taking that shot of the rain hammering it down, Tim's margin rod just down this little channel that connects this lake to another lake of a similar size. He's just had a run on the rod in the real shallow water. There's us fishing in 10 metres, this was in about 2 metres. It's about, probably about 18, isn't it?
Yeah, nice clean fish.
Yeah. Tim's off the mark, birthday fish.
Just want one about 4 times.
One about, yeah. This is half your birthday.
But it just shows, if carp had moved over those spots over there, we would have had a run.
Yeah.
So we're just not in the right place, because this rod's been in an hour.
Been in about an hour.
Popping back.
Yeah, okay. Don't know if you can see that, but we've actually got a rainbow, would you believe it? First time the sun's come out all day. It's 2 PM. Everything is getting soaking. Here's the channel where Tim just caught that small one from. As I said, it goes up through to another lake right up there. It's difficult to tell whether it's barred off. There's some buoys that go across, but there doesn't appear to be any netting that actually cuts the fish off. So it was obviously a fish moving in between the lakes and in the shallowest water. Quite a good spot really. Well, you are not going to believe this. The rain is still falling. It's 4 p.m. on Sunday the 10th of November, Tim's 34th birthday, and have we got a birthday present for the boy.
Get in there, mate.
This fish came over the baited area in the deep water as we expected, but we certainly didn't expect to catch one this big.
Didn't even know there was one this big in the lake.
It's Tim's second biggest carp, beaten only by a 61 pounder from back in 05 from a Tangda stock.
Donkey.
Absolute donkey. How big did it go, Tim?
Well, I think on my scale's 58.6 and on yours 58.5. Or 58.4.
Yeah.
58.
Come on then, come on then.
Settle for
58.6.
58.6.
Let's just come round. It's just width on that is something else. There she is. Some tail damage there from some point in the past. It's fairly well healed around the edges. So it probably happened at some point a couple of years back. Absolute beaut. Within seconds, an unbelievable storm swept through the valley, nearly knocking us off our feet as we were returning the huge carp.
Here's John just coming back from his second drop for the second night, just out in the open water. All right, mate?
Yeah, fine. I'd be a lot better if I just caught 58 pounder.
I haven't said that about that yet.
It's fine. Amazing result.
Well, I won't film him getting out of the boat.
Right, well it's what are we on, Tim? Monday morning?
Yeah.
Right, so we're on Monday morning. Absolutely freezing northerly up to about 2 AM last night. It really has dropped, but we knew it was going to. It's probably about 1 or 2 degrees now. Oh, it feels biting cold. Again, Tim had a nice 33 pounder just from the channel. Again, the channel rod in the very shallow water. Seems to be the only one producing the bites apart from the big one. We've got 6 rods out in the deep water and we've had 1 bite from it, which was that massive 58 pounder that Tim had. This wasn't our plan. I'm sure Tim's keen on staying, but it's just like the first 2 nights. I've blanked the last 2 nights, so realistically today I think the only absolute banker rod is Tim's channel rod to go. So, and you know, the deeper water, I'm sure a lot of the carp are in this other lake further up. We've not seen any shows. We've had 1 bite. We've been strategically positioning the baits in all sorts of areas. We've given them a nice helping of Odyssey XXX. So can't see any reason why, if there weren't more carp in the area, we wouldn't have had more bites. I think Tim's intercepting them as they come through the channel here in the very shallow water. So I think personally, I want to stick to our original plan and move on to the lake that's going to be less busy. We're on a bank holiday Monday in France, the 11th of November, and we're hoping that where we're going to go on to is quiet, and our biggest chance of getting caught will be when we're actually taking the barrows down there. Oh, there's Tim. Flipping heck. Beautiful scenery, beautiful lake really, and beautiful big fat carp to show for it. See how we go today. I'll try and convince Tim to back up.
Right, priority number one, we're back. There's a few carp anglers here. We're very nervous about coming down with all our gear and making it look like we're night fishing, because all it takes is one guy to alert another, one to give the guard de pêche a call, and we're in trouble. The plan is the main swims are up the left hand bank, but you definitely need a boat to get probably 3/4 of the way across, where I'm guessing the fish feel more comfortable because of the lines going out. So our plan is to go up the right hand bank here. It's very steep banks, but at least we can find somewhere that we think will be closer to where the fish will be spending the majority of their time. So in an opinion, so we don't know for sure, but surely up this right hand bank where everyone's attempting to boat across to is going to be a better bet. Right, well, it's 7 in the morning. There are carp boshing in front. Unfortunately, my tripod, I've lost the screw to attach the camera on, so we're not going to have any more tripod action. Gutted about that. We're miles from the car. I do have a spare, but we're so far away that it's not feasible to go back. We arrived last night, missioning it round here. We're in the middle of woods. Where you're not allowed to be. We're being as covert and discreet as possible. I've squeezed 3 rods in. It's probably not really big enough for 3. Not knowing anything about what's in front of me, unfortunately it's riddled with snags. I got a take at 10 PM last night. I lost it under my feet in a snag. Absolutely gutted. I don't know how many more snags there are out there, but I've lost 2 rigs. Realistically, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to stay here, but I did manage to get a beautiful mirror. God, did you see that? They're jumping out on the right, but unfortunately it's full of snags over there. I had a mirror, I haven't weighed it yet, but I think it's over 40 pounds. God, can you see that? Going flipping apeshit out there. Just going to hold this steady for a while. Struggling to focus.
Where'd it go then, John?
44.5, just over 20 kilos. Look at the size of the fins.
Been in a sack for probably an hour and a half.
Yeah, something like that.
Bit of face slapping coming up.
Oh, almost. Came on single 18mm triple X with a little hazelnut flavoured pink.
Seems to be the winner.
Pink pop-up.
And the crays don't seem to like the pink pop-ups with the hazelnut.
No.
They've been caning all different types, but that one.
This is down to sheer hard work.
Let's have a look at the other side.
Yeah. There she is.
Well done, mate.
Beautiful.
First of many, let's hope.
Yeah.
Right, do you want to do some stills?
Yeah.
So it's just going back. I'll just take you through the beautiful backdrop. I don't know if you can quite see that with the sun on it. Yeah, that is pucker, mate.
Okay, off the mark with a 20 kilo, nice. So just to let you know, that fish came no more than 5 yards out, just down here at the bottom of the shelf. So I lost one more where it's riddled with snags down here, where trees fallen in from this wooded bank that we're on. The reality is, everyone fishes from that far side. All the fish are within the last quarter of the lake on this side, which is no surprise when there are all those lines going out. They've been rolling all morning out here, but a little bit further out, quite a lot further out than where the baits are. There's just too many snags out there. Last thing you want to be doing is losing a load of carp. One fish, one lost fish, one caught fish, and a decent sized one. I'm sure the one I lost wasn't that big.
Right, maybe I shouldn't just be videoing this because John's just fallen in. So I'll just better give him a hand to get out.
It's just an absolute mudslide.
It's these silly waders and it's only going to get worse.
This is just so precarious at night.
Right, let's get you out, mate.
Okay, let's just quickly show you where Tim's fishing. There's enough there to last a year. And then his rods are down here. Again, we're over the other side, so he's keeping as tight as possible. And where have you got them, Tim?
I've got one as far as I can underarm it over towards the dam. The middle one I waded out and I've got it pretty much in line with the mountain, but just as far out, just into the breeze there.
Can't see the mound.
And one just in close to the right. There is someone opposite there, isn't there?
Yeah. Yeah, there he is. Right, I'm going to go and get that boat. I'll see you later. Okay. My makeshift tripod. Right, it's Wednesday morning. Another very cold night. It went down to 1 degrees. No frost, which I hear you've had quite a hard frost in the UK last night. Woken up to a very misty, cloudy morning. No surprise whatsoever, no bites. The fish have clearly moved out to an extent. There's still the odd fish on the far side. They've moved down towards Tim, although he hasn't had any action yet. Basically, I got snagged up last night and ended up having to pull for the brake, and the braid snapped right on my reel. So there was 60 yards of braid in the water, which I couldn't leave out there. So I had to go and get the boat. The moment the boat went out on the water and the oar hit the side of the boat, I'm convinced the fish just know. You know they with the hippopotamus they bang on the side of the boat to bring them up to the surface. Over in these safari parks and all that, I'm convinced the carp have a similar sort of reaction, and they move out of the area when there's all this banging and there's a great big bloody boat in the water. So anyway, I went out.
the rod that was snagged up was only over about 6 foot of water. It's crystal clear water, so I could see the bottom, and it was caught on a branch just coming straight out of the soil, where I think very recently they've taken an island out, and they've obviously gone over with an excavator and just flattened it all down. So there's a few branches sticking out. Very unfortunate to get snagged up on it. Incidentally, there was a boilie right next to my hook bait, and there was a crayfish on it, giving it all of that when I came close. But no, unfortunately, I couldn't get down to it, and I had to pull for the brake, which also means that there's an annoying little pink pop-up with a hook embedded in a tree root out there. And I'm sure if they have a go at eating that, and they realise that it's snagged up, again that puts them on the alert. Having had the boat out there, I thought I may as well place a couple of baits by boat, do it all properly. 30 baits round each, nice spread as far as I could throw, so there's not just like a cluster, because everyone uses bait boats on here. Not a touch. I'm at no shows within the region of my lines. They must know I'm here. Contemplating whether or not to stick out a load more bait, because there's also the question mark as to how many of the baits the crayfish have eaten. Every hook bait coming back has got crayfish, has been well crayed up. You know, there's crayfish marks all over it. There's probably 75% of the bait left, which is fine. I'm just wondering how many have been taken out there, but as I said, there's very little showing. It's certainly not straightforward. We didn't really expect it to be, being mid-November. They're certainly not going to be quite as lively as they would be earlier on in the year, but I think we've got a better chance of a big carp. We'll see what the morning brings, and then I'll debate whether or not to move off. Over now.
It's about 2:30 on the Wednesday afternoon. It's freezing cold today. It's dead still. You can see it's like a mill pond today. All the leaves are falling off the trees by now. There's just a few yellow ones left. And it must be about 3 or 4 degrees. It's absolutely freezing. Dead as a dodo. I've boated 2 baits right across to the other side. Ironically, the bank where people normally fish, right over towards that swim there. And there's absolutely no doubt about it. The reason I saw a couple of shows over there is because I've got lines out over here. They're so finicky on lines. Trouble is with long range rods and short range rods in the same sort of vicinity, you almost feel like you're dampening your chances of getting a run on the close in rod with so many bloody lines going across the lake. That was why I caught on the first night, because I just had a couple of rods just in under the near margin. Now it's all been disturbed, now the boat's been out. It looks from here that the carp have totally vacated the vicinity. And they've got quite a lot of water to go into down that end. Anyway, a move's pretty much off the cards, so I might have to just try and find some new spots, see if I can winkle one out of somewhere else. See, it's carp down this bottom end. We've just stopped in on this lake. There's been a lot of pressure. This was the one, incidentally, in the Alps that I fished, I think, in my first ever Drive and Survive movie. There are carp down this end. The lake's received so much pressure since then. I fished right down the other end, right up there. You can see one of the boys there in the distance, but there's at least 4 other anglers on, and I think it's been like that all the way through October, in the September, October, in the early part of November. But there are fish right down this far end. We might be able to nick a couple, but I don't really fancy it for a long time. Gonna make a move from here.
I've done 750 miles. I played on 2 tanks, is it?
It's pretty good, mate. Pretty good. Right, well, we can't fish anywhere around here. This is where I'm moored up. Took the boat over to the snags. Pike angle around there. Got dogs.
Don't look like they've been set up there.
Option number 4, well and truly stitched up as we anticipated. Carp anglers there. Carp angler there. All fishing out into this part of the lake. There's an angler out in his boat there. And there's a Czech Republic car here with a French one next to it. Stitched up, eh, Tim? Oh look, there's another person out in his boat there. Other end of the lake, people bivvied up on the island there. Can't hold it steady.
What's that just splashed in the middle there? Small.
Small.
Right, after about 5 different lakes, all with what we felt was the best chance of a 50-pounder, all of them were totally stitched, all the spots we wanted to fish were just a no-go basically. So it was getting dark. What are we on? We're on Thursday, are we?
Yeah.
Thursday evening, it's starting to rain again. We've just found this little lake. It's a small gravel pit, quite close to where one of the places that we fished before. I think the carp go up to about 26 kilos, so about the same size as your 58-pounder, Tim.
That'll do.
Yeah, that'll do.
Pair of those.
I think sort of 45 plus is a little bit sparser compared with some of the other places we're fishing, but unless we get chucked off, we're going to give it 48 hours here. We've just sticked out probably 5 or 6 key.
Yeah, just right across this open water area.
Across 9, probably maximum throwing sticks range, which is for 24 minutes, about what, 90 yards?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that.
Right across.
All the way across. It feels about 8 to 10 foot deep, fairly firm bottom.
A lot shallower than the lakes we've been fishing.
Yeah, a lot shallower.
But in all fairness, the takes we got on those lakes were probably in slightly shallower water.
It's a Thursday night. There's one other carp angler on the lake. Of the lake, what must be about 20 acres.
Yeah, I think it's it might be a bit bigger than that.
Bigger than that. It's got a few islands weaving in about. So after 3 nights on the previous lake, where basically we were 2 miles from the car, our batteries ran down.
John was getting seriously dehydrated.
We ran out of water. Batteries on the phones had died. So we didn't really have a choice. We either went back to the car and just sat around while everything recharged, and went to the supermarket and then rode back down the lakes. But it just wasn't feasible. It wasn't realistic. And we were fishing 300 yards apart in the middle of dense woods. It wasn't that much fun, was it?
It would have been alright if we were caught a few more.
Yeah, exactly. One fish
but blanking.
One fish between us for 3 days, and
It's a lesson learned really. First time on the water, new water, you don't really know how to fish it. We could have done with plumbing it a little bit more to know where the shallower spots were, because it was all of 30 foot deep in a lot of the lake. The fish moved about and we were in the woods because we knew we weren't allowed to fish there, and we weren't mobile enough to move on to them. So we thought for the last couple of nights, before we make our way back, we'll have a few beers, a bit of the old Vin Rouge.
And it is driving.
It's driving.
And as you can see, there's barely any other anglers.
Exactly.
I mean, the lake we saw previously, which is what, 5-10 miles down the road, what did it have?
Absolutely gridlocked.
10-15 anglers on it?
At least that. All with 4 lines out, all with boats, covering the
Markers
entire,
everywhere.
which is no fun either. That lake's pretty much a no-go these days. Thank God we made the most of it in 2005 and 6.
Yeah, definitely.
We've seen one fish jump.
Well, one fish just rolled out pretty much where I've got that rod there.
Well, I think it's probably where mine is actually.
No, it was just out in the middle, so it was a good sign.
Oh yeah, possibly a bit closer to that rod.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Absolutely freezing.
Bit of steak to cheer you up, eh, John?
Yeah.
We're hardly living in the lap.
Oh my god. Horrendous down here, absolutely horrendous. It's not as though we're even getting any bites.
The rods haven't moved. They even chucked a zig out there, just in case there's anything floating about mid-water.
Well, I reckon we'll get something tonight.
We've seen a few fish lunk over this area.
Yeah, a couple of fish have jumped, and we've just found out that this is actually private and it costs €20 for every 24 hours. So the fact it's private would suggest that there's actually a few decent carp in it. But for whatever reason, I know we're in the right area. They just don't seem to be getting their heads down.
Time will tell.
Maybe they will tonight. Yeah. Run us through the rig that you caught your birthday 58 pounder on.
Right, we're starting with the hook link material, 25 pound, stiff coated with the last inch or so stripped back to allow the movement and the turn of the hook.
What sort of hook you got on there?
This is a long shank nailer, very sharp. This particular one's a size 6. We've been using 6s and 4s. The 6s tend to go with the 18s and the 4s with the 24 millers.
Yeah. So basically a slightly wider gape hook for the bigger diameter bait.
Yeah.
And any particular reason why you go with that pattern?
Just very sharp, turns in very well, lose very few fish.
No, exactly. You know I use these as well. One of the big reasons is the size of the gape between the point of the hook and the eye of the hook. When you've got these shorter shank version of the curved shanks, like the quarter curved shank, and ESP do one now, they haven't quite got the gape there. That when the hook turns, I don't think they're just quite as efficient as snatching hold, because there's a wider gape there to grab hold of the inside of the fish's mouth.
But at the same time, we found that the Fox Series 5, which is a similar pattern, the wire is a lot thinner, and it's overkill on the eye turning. This is quite a nice flat, but it's overkill in our eyes.
Exactly. Lost a few fish on the Fox Series 5, the new kind of grey shadow version.
They're not as good.
They're a slightly lighter gauge wire. When you're playing these really strong carp, there's always a chance that hook's going to just tear out. And I think these slightly heavier gauged hooks, I think they're the best for the business, certainly for open water fishing, definitely not for snag fishing, but I use them in probably 70% of situations. What about the bait, Tim? What have you got on the top there?
This one is an 18 mils Odyssey XXX. and then we've got a Hellraiser pop-up soaked in the hazelnut.
Yeah, we can't ignore the Corda underwater DVDs that have just come out. It was clearly visible that the carp honed in on the pink baits over the other baits. Whether it was to do with the fact they'd soaked them in almond, I'm not so sure, but I just didn't think we could ignore it. So we got some of the good old C. Seymour hazelnut flavouring and soaked some of their pink Hellraisers, and they've done the absolute business for us this trip. Tim's had the 58 on it and I had a 44 on them, so an absolute winner.
One other interesting thing that we found we didn't think of before on these pink Hellraisers in that hazelnut oil, the shats and the crayfish didn't seem to like them anywhere near as much.
Yeah, very, very few. Basically, we've been fishing lakes which have been full of crayfish for a change, and every bait that's come in,
clear marks on it, claw marks,
clear
or bite
claw
marks.
Whereas they tend to leave these kind of rubbery textured pink pop-ups alone, which has been another bonus for us. Definitely something to learn. To be fair, we haven't fished many waters with poisson chat in them, so we haven't given them the true test, but it's certainly one to remember. Bit of the old Bordeaux, can't beat it.
6 bottles of wine there.
Right, we're just packing up the final bits. Not surprisingly, another blank night. Got really cold up until about midnight.
Frost on the bivvies.
It was frost on the bivvies, and then it's coming overcast, a little bit of lower pressure, foggy.
Still light northerly.
Very light northerly. Absolutely no action whatsoever to report.
One fish show this morning.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of other anglers on the lake. Didn't hear any runs last night. What would you have done differently, Tim, if we had come here?
I think the only different thing we could have done was possibly, I mean, we spoke about targeting a different part of the lake, but we've seen fish showing here.
We're in the central part of the lake. I think we're in the right spot. I think possibly we came in with 24mm baits and we put quite a lot in, possibly, but I think it's more to do with the fact the conditions aren't in our favour. It's pretty much the first real cold week of the year over here, or the second real cold week, and don't get me wrong, I do think they'll feed up again at some point between now and Christmas, but
just switched them off initially.
It might have just switched them off.
It should really be a good time, first frost, but
it's just
there just haven't been carp in numbers feeding in front of us on the spreader bait, and that's why we haven't had a take. I mean, hindsight, possibly, you know, tried initially with a little bit less bait, or we might not be, the majority of carp might not be in this area of the lake, but you've got to give it 2 nights when you put bait out.
Yeah.
So it hasn't worked.
It's a nice little lake. It's a lovely little lake, and the guard who came around says that 20 kilos is fairly normal for here.
I think we'd return.
I would come back. I mean, let's be fair. It's been a very tough week. It's been cold. It's been slow. We've had very little action to report. So I'm thinking next year it will have to be the September or October, and we'll find somewhere where the hopefully, which is a little bit quieter. Right. Well, we'll just pack up the last few bits into the very well packed van that I can't take the credit for. And then we're going to head off. Possibly a stopover on the way back. We haven't.
We are stopping over on the way.
We are stopping over on the way back. Yeah. Okay. Fine. Right. We're just packing over on the stopover on the way home. Surprise, surprise, we didn't get any fish. We got 1 chub. And I got my hooking mate nicked. It just goes to show that you've got to keep everything real tight to the brolly in these kind of urban areas. We've stopped off about 4 hours from Calais, just in a city centre where there's a lake where we fished before and caught carp, and just had the unhooking mat a few yards to the right of the brolly, and at probably about what, 4:35 a.m. Tim heard some footsteps. He thought it was me. I didn't hear anything because I had about 3 hats on because it was so cold. And this morning, no unhooking mat. Bit of a blessing in disguise really, because it wasn't big enough for Tim's 58 pounder. So well, it just goes to show you've just got to keep your wits about you on these sorts of places. Keep an eye out. We think they were probably targeting Tim's bike, but fortunately that was tight against the brolly. The only thing that wasn't was the unhooking mat, and it's been done. With one carp sack and possibly a pair of Rubens in it, I'm not sure. Can't seem to find them.
Sling as well.
Yeah, it's a weight sling as well, so it's not ideal. Probably 70 or 80 quid's worth of stuff stolen, but
A lesson learned.
lesson learned. Another little thing to think about when you're coming away. Right, only thing left to do now is the booth run.
And then homeward bound.
And then homeward bound. So we're going to go and stock up on the old Vin Rouge,
Bit of nice chocolate.
satisfy the other halves with a bit of wine, and then go. So
Right.
let's go.
Let's go.